22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it.
All right.
And are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are listening to Black Westchester Magazine presents People Before Politics Radio every Sunday 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com. As usual, we have Black by popular demand, Damon K. Jones.
Yes. What up?
We got Dr. Robert Baskerville of the Brooklyn Baskervilles.
Something tells me my microphone still isn't working.
That might be by design. No, I'm just playing.
Nah, I don't hear it, man. It just
Yo.
You move seats.
There we go.
Okay.
You're supposed to be that mic.
There we go.
Yeah, Nah, you know this is my seat, AJ. I was just on the side.
Yeah. Now you want to move
consistent.
seats. And I am AJ Woodson. This is show number 90, I believe. Episode 90. This is the 90th episode of People Before Politics
you know
Radio.
what? Oh, hold on. Go ahead. Keep talking. Keep talking, man.
So we got the rest of this month is going to be big, and the end of the month, Sunday, August 28th, Black Westchester Magazine and People Before Politics Radio will actually host our first Senate debate. We will have 4 of the candidates for the Senate.
Live on air?
Live on air. Broadcasting live on the air. We'll be Facebook Live. Y'all will be able to ask questions via Facebook, and we will read them out to you. I don't think we're going to take a lot of calls that day. We're going to let y'all.
No. It won't be a lot of calls.
Yeah.
It won't be a lot of calls. Because this is really historic right now. You know what we're doing with the radio show is really historic, giving information to the people, and I think that's what the show was created for, and that's what we intended to do is give information, man. So, you know, we're not going to accept any calls on that day, but we want people to watch and see their candidates. This is a test run, you know, and hopefully there'll be more debates. We'll have more debates on the People Before Politics radio show, and we're definitely going to send out invitations to the district attorney's office candidates.
Yeah.
Bruce Bandage, who is now he doesn't have a primary, so he's going to be the Republican and Independence Party candidate. And what's the other guy's name? You can tell who I don't even know the other candidate.
I don't know the Democrat.
Scarpino.
Yes.
Yes, Scarpino is running for the Democrats. And we'll talk about that another time. The Democrats have a very bad history in the black community when after 3 terms of Janet DeFiore in the unjust killings of black men and police criminality rampant throughout Westchester County. So, you know, maybe it's time for a change. But that's up to the people to decide, and we're going to send an actual invitation to both candidates to come on the show, and we'll have a debate, and we're going to start doing that, and that will really lay the foundation, for other debates and hopefully a Westchester County executive debate.
That would be beautiful.
On People Before Politics.
Because and Black Westchester is the only place you can still, if you for any one reason wanted to see all the debates from last year, you can still see them on. Black Westchester was the only place that had the video of all the mayoral debates of last year.
Right.
All of them in their entirety. So
but for Westchester County, when we're dealing with county elections, I think is real important for Black Westchester to actually play a role in moving forward and informing the communities of color. And next week we're going to really talk real hard politics, because we're going to have Helena Edwards, who is the publisher of Straight Talk out of Mount Vernon, or Straight Talk out of MV.
I think it's Straight Talk Mount V. Or
Straight Talk from Mount Vernon. V.
Coming straight from Mount Vernon.
We're going to have a long time. We always wanted to have people from the Latino and Hispanic community, and I'm honored to have Lorraine Lopez, who has been, out in the street doing a thing for the Latinos in Westchester County. She's going to be on next week.
That's what's up.
And one of her proteges that we know very well.
Yes.
What's the brother's name?
Hector Santiago. Mr. Stop and Shake.
Yeah, Mr. Stop and Shake.
Yes. Yo, I got to tell him too. So I seen this bad Mount Vernon police cop. I ain't know her. So I wanted an excuse to walk up to her during the Fleetwood car show. And I walked up, I was like, hey, do we have Stop and Shake? And I just wanted to shake her hand just to have a conversation. I was like, yo, the other day. So she said, no, we don't do that here.
Wait.
I walked up and Stop and Shaked.
But look, I just sent you the link, AJ. Hold on a second. I'm sending it to you right now. And since we have time, our guest is not here yet. Well, the drama continues in Mount Vernon. And let's just play this. This is from Files.
Okay, let me setting up. Hold on. Large screen. Yo, I need Cruz. He didn't plate my screen back together. I don't know why they do that. Knock on that door?
Oh, well.
Just knock on the door.
Well, we'll move on.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, other things in the news. Mr. Trump is still moving forward, and a lot of people they're still talking about Trump, and I really hope we get a chance to talk about that there's other party alternatives than Hillary Clinton. You have Gary Johnson, who is the Libertarian Party presidential candidate, and you have Dr. Jill Stein, who is the Green Party, candidate. And I really hate that when I hear people, you only have one other, you only have, Hillary Clinton's the only choice. No, she's not the only choice. There's two other choices, and and we have a choice.
Yeah.
We it's just not Hillary Clinton. And everybody's saying, well, it's a lesson. Oh, okay, here we go.
Okay, hit play.
More conflict between the Mount Vernon City Controller and the mayor. Mayor Thomas accused the controller of being incompetent, citing one particular small business that the city hasn't paid yet. Now the controller is fighting back, calling him clueless. Files One's Lisa Salvati has more.
A check was not cut. The invoice was never received by my office.
Mount Vernon Controller Maureen Walker is talking about an Amerisigns invoice, an invoice she claims she never received. The Mount Vernon-based business made promotional banners for the city, but claims it was never paid for services rendered on May 17th, invoice number 115, in the amount of $675. The company emailed Mayor Thomas about it, and he spoke to me about it on Thursday.
$600 or even $9,000 is a big deal to our vendors. But the problem is when they submit their invoices to be paid, the Comptroller's office arbitrarily, unilaterally waits and delays.
The mayor went on to say Walker doesn't pay the bills on time and it's making the city look bad.
That's not how we do business. And quite frankly, when staff goes down to process these payments with the controller's office, they need not to be mistreated.
The mayor was talking about this police report filed by his aide. Earlier this week, the aide claimed when she went to deliver invoices to Walker's office, Walker threw the papers at her and yelled at her. The cops were called. Walker has denied throwing the papers. Meantime, Walker says as far as paying AmeriSigns for invoice 115, it's not her office that's causing the delay. AmeriSigns said in the email they tried to contact the Department of Public Works because they haven't gotten paid. I understand that the invoice has to go to the department first for approval. What's happening here? Because the mayor is saying that you're not paying this company.
The mayor does not understand the process, and it's really sad that after 8 months, he is clueless as to how that process works.
Did you get an invoice for this particular service from AmeriSigns?
I cannot remember that. I don't think so. I signed hundreds of invoices. It doesn't ring a bell.
Mayor Thomas is saying that your office is not working in an expeditious fashion. You are not processing these bills in a timely manner.
We prepare checks and we send them to him, and he holds checks for weeks, for months. He's been holding checks since January.
And I asked to speak to the mayor about Walker's accusations that he's holding onto checks that need his signature, but I was told he was unavailable for further comment. At Mount Vernon City Hall, Lisa Salvati, FiOS 1 News.
All right, so that was the article. That was August 12th, 2 days ago. We'll say Sunday. That was Friday. That ran Friday night at 8:10 on FiOS 1 News. Any comments or anything about what we've just seen?
Like you looking at it.
Like we always do at this time.
Well, hey, listen, man. You know, this is more malarkey, man. It's just. I mean, sometimes you need to stay out of the news.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you need to stay out of the news, and I think Richie chose a fight that he didn't want to finish because it's no secret in Mount Vernon that the mayor's office has held over 250, 300 checks and that he refused to sign, and which has brought the question about those stolen checks that ended up in Brooklyn or copied, because he sat on hundreds of checks in his office, and that's the issue that the people of Mount Vernon are still waiting on. How did these people from Brooklyn end up with checks that had the mayor's signature and the controller's signature on it? And when the process is that she drops off the checks to the mayor's office to be signed, and then there's allegedly supposed to be sent back to the controller's office to be paid to the vendors. So if this person had both signatures, clearly it couldn't have came from the controller's office. So he opened up a can of worms that literally he shouldn't have, and pointing the finger to the controller when he's sitting on hundreds of checks in his office, probably hundreds of checks in his office right now.
It begs to differ something else, because checks are signed by the controller and the stacks of checks are given to the mayor's office.
Right.
So it already has the controller's signature on it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Just who has access? I think that's always been the question. Who has access beside himself to those checks? And if they're just either sitting on his desk or in his desk drawer. You understand what I'm saying? Who has access to that? That is the issue that a lot of people were dealing with. But I'm going to say, if you're going to be in the news, though, watching the news footage with your magazine cover in the background.
Yes,
that was a good look for Black
good.
Westchester.
And you know what? When I saw that, I told my wife. When I saw that, I told my Andre, come on, Andre first. Oh,
yeah. Keep talking, Damon. Bob, stay where you are. Bob, stay where you are. Bob, stay where you are.
I forgot. I'm trying to tell you to come first.
Okay. We had some guests. We got some guests just walking in, and that's why we blue screened everything real quick. Sorry for that. This is live radio. So We have okay. All right,
Hey, what's up? Don't be shy.
Hey, how are you? So just entering the building, sorry for all of the commotion, is senatorial candidate Jamal Bryant. Bailey. I'm sorry.
Jamal Bryant's a preacher, brother.
I'm sorry. And you know what? I was just looking at something with him on the news like earlier today. My bad. What's going on?
Hey, what's happening?
Turn your mic on because you're not on yet. Now speak. There you go.
All right, what's up, fellas?
There you go. So, we were just talking earlier, we're having our first, Black Westchester Magazine and People Before Politics is having our first ever senatorial debate on the 28th, which is going to be live, and it's going to be very interesting because nobody's ever done anything like that around here. So, we're going to have all four of y'all. Actually, we never reached out. We couldn't get in touch with, what's her name, Pamela? We weren't able to reach her, so it'll be the other four right now. So, Dr. Ponder just confirmed. Shout out to him too, our newest advertiser. So we got to give him a shout. He just sent in his ad. But yeah, so we're looking forward to that though.
All right.
So now I know people know you in the Bronx, but a lot of people were like, "Who is this guy?" Because it represents that district, represents part of Mount Vernon. So Mount Vernon doesn't, tell the people, introduce yourself to the people. Who are you?
I can understand that. You can only be from one place, right? I'm from Paulden Avenue, 225th Street. But the reason why I want to do this is not simply because it's a title. This is more than just a title. This is a commitment to community. This is something that over time that in working with the Speaker of the Assembly and working in government and doing work in my community, these are things that I've been able to push forward. Folks in Mount Vernon may not know me because I'm not from Mount Vernon, but I've been doing a lot of inroads into Mount Vernon in the last couple of months and weeks, and really just listening to what people have to say about what the issues and concerns really are in Mount Vernon. Because at the end of the day, if you're not from somewhere, I can't pretend that because I go to Poppy's Deli or I go to Target or I've been to Dazzle's a couple times that I know Mount Vernon.
Right.
But what I'm doing is I'm talking to validators. I'm talking to people that have lived in Mount Vernon, and I think I got one of the biggest validators in the endorsement of Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson. And I think one of the big concerns is that the district is majority Bronx. You're a Bronx guy. Are you going to leave Westchester in the cold? And the answer today, tomorrow, and then the next 20 years will be no, no, and no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to represent the district equally because it is a district that requires equal representation. Co-op City, Wakefield, Williamsbridge, Norwood, Tracy Towers, the city of Mount Vernon all deserve an equal slice of the pie. Point blank, period. And that's the kind of representation that I believe in, and that's what I'm going to do in the state senate.
Yeah, and I agree. A lot of people in Mount Vernon always feel that they got the short end of the stick. A lot of times when it comes to different funding for programs and because the actual need of you have a high percentage of people that are on social services and have needs like that. So the actual monies that come in does not make up for the actual need of the people. So as senator, if you're a senator, how can you change that? Because 23% of all families that receive social services are in Mount Vernon, Westchester County. So Mount Vernon holds 23%. What can you do to try to change that and help that so more programs can come to?
That's a very good question.
Well, one of the first things you have to do is that you have to improve the education system district-wide. And again, that goes for the Bronx and the city of Mount Vernon. But in the city of Mount Vernon, I know you guys have a new a PA president, right? That was just recently elected. And then you guys have and then Mr. Hamilton, the superintendent, he's a recent addition. So you have some new additions to the educational system, right? And education is one of my main priorities. As a father of a nearly 2-year-old daughter, it's vitally important to make sure that we're looking at the next generation, that we're laying the foundation going forward. So I think that some of the problems that we're having in terms of social service, in terms of people requiring these this level of assistance, has to do with the fact that they're not getting a good job, right? And with the not getting a good job is that the education comes first. But as far as getting good jobs go, right, what I like to say is that sometimes what we do in the world is we try to fit square pegs into round holes. We try to say, this is the path, this and only this is the way to success, and I don't believe in that. What I believe in is that we need to make sure that we are individually looking at people's skill sets holistically, looking at what people are good at. Just because you're not a great mathematician doesn't mean that you're not going to be a solid electrician. I have a good friend who's an electrician, makes a lot of money, makes more money than I was making, and he wasn't a quote unquote great student, but he recognized his gifts and talents early. And I feel like what we don't do is we don't recognize those gifts and talents. So I think it's about making sure we meet people where they're at, getting people better jobs, and then slowly but surely we can make erosion of those, get those folks off the rolls.
Right. Dr. Bob?
Well, I mean, that's one way to look at the whole problem of reliance on social services and its relationship to the education system. All of the data that's available on the state of the U.S. economy suggests that our economy has been emptied out of industrial jobs of the very kind that don't traditional blue collar jobs that don't require higher education as for entrance into those fields. And I want to know what is anyone gonna do? like seriously, because I think we all come in here bullshitting about what's really going on in the U.S. economy. Like, you know what? If only we got people more education, everything would be fine. As a matter of fact, a lot of evidence suggests that even those with higher, college credentials are now finding themselves suffering from a shortage of jobs because of the inroads made through robotics, artificial intelligence, offshoring of jobs, competition from well-educated people abroad. What are we going to do to create some jobs, brother? That's what I want to know. Where's our jobs creation program? Well, and you want me to tell what?
Sure.
And brother Bailey, I haven't had the pleasure to meet you. Firstly, let me shake your hand.
Pleasure to meet you, brother.
Absolutely. I don't want to put you on a hot seat.
It's all good, man.
This has nothing to do with you.
And just before you answer, I know everybody's seen another person into the screen. We have Patrice Moore. Huh?
Patrice Wallace
Moore. Okay. Just introduce yourself real briefly, and then just pull away. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Patrice Wallace Moore. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Arms Acres Incorporated, which is a substance abuse treatment program in upstate New York.
Okay.
And so I'm glad to be here.
Okay.
And Sister Patrice, welcome. Always. Yes, you gotta get around and so. Always a fan of the work that you do in the Mount Vernon community, in the greater community of Westchester County. And this is the type of show you feel free. If you have something to say, you could jump in and say, this is Free Talk Radio.
Yes. So, do you remember his question? Do you need him to repeat it?
It was about job creation.
Okay.
And how can we make creative and innovative ways for job creation? I agree with you, Dr. Bob. Is it correct?
Yes, that's
Dr. Bob. I think what we need to make sure we're doing is we're looking at innovative strategies throughout government, right? One of the things about government is that sometimes what we do is that we lag behind and we wait for the private sector to create, and the government follows behind it instead of being innovative and trying to be on the cutting edge of things, right? So in the Bronx, there's an organization called Perscolas. What they do is they offer free computer-based job training, and it takes you anywhere from 10 to 18 weeks, depending on your level of skills, and you will be able to have a certification, some sort of skill, some sort of trade. It's not a trade, a skill that you can have and go forward for job placement in the future, right? This is a totally free program, right? But what that does is that it makes people enter the tech sector, which is vitally necessary in communities of color. But more importantly, what it teaches is soft skills such as credit counseling, financial literacy, how to dress for success, making sure that people understand those basic things about the economy and how to take care of those things will go a long way in terms of making sure that we have a workforce that is ready. And again, you need to make sure you have a workforce that is ready, willing, and able. It's not just ready and willing, because you have a lot of ready and willing people, but are you able to do the job? And we need to make sure that we're not failing people in training them. You mentioned it earlier, talking about the, I guess, for lack of a better term, shovel-ready jobs, infrastructure jobs that require that are being bled from the U.S. economy. That blue collar work is not as a priority as it once is. That's why I'm really proud that a number of the building trades and associations, trade associations, are supporting my candidacy, because they understand that those are the type of things that I want to make sure that we're doing throughout the 36th senatorial district. Creating new jobs in spaces, making sure that people are paid a living and prevailing wage, making sure that the job that they do is not only going to be safe if it's a construction site, but it's a job that they can take a decent pay home to their family and not have to worry about living paycheck to paycheck, or if they miss a days or two of work, that they have to worry about some sort of financial ruin.
Prevailing wages. That's
been the key word of
Mount Vernon. Did somebody say Joe Spezio? I'm sorry. Well, you know, and that's good. Now, what is your intentions as far as social justice? Because in my opinion, the Senate and the Assembly dropped the ball on the New York State Independent Special Prosecutor and allowed the governor to actually executive order to appoint the Attorney General, which, you know, on the Attorney General's website, you know, he can be a special prosecutor on his own. You know, he's empowered to do that. A lot of families, especially in the Bronx, I know I'm close friends with Ramali Graham's mother and father, and I've supported them, and not just their family, but many families throughout New York, you know, have been looking for, you know, legislation for an independent special prosecutor. What is your view on that?
Well, just first and foremost, that first Saturday after it happened, as you recall, we all congregated at Community Board 12 at that first Saturday after the Ramali Graham incident, and it was a really trying time in the 83rd Assembly District, 36th Senatorial District, making sure that, you know, we are holding people accountable for bad actors for accountable for the things that they do. As far as special prosecutors go, I don't see a problem with the Attorney General stepping up and doing these things, but it has to be evaluated on a piece by piece basis. You have to look at, can you be impartial? Impartiality is really the most important thing that we need to make sure we're having, that there's no relationship with the I guess department, so to speak, that is being prosecuted. I think that's the way I look at it as an attorney, making sure that impartiality is what matters first and foremost, that everybody has the right to fairness.
Right.
Fairness is first and foremost. In terms of other criminal justice matters that we need to make sure we're looking at, bail reform is necessary. In addition to bail reform, though, we need to make sure we are not burdening our public defenders. A lot of people don't look at the burden that a lot of our public defenders face, right?
Agreed.
If you look at like average caseloads, they're 30 to 40% higher, from my understanding. I don't quote me on that stat, even though we're live on the air and on live, right? But I know that the caseload of a public defender is much larger than it should, and those types of things really affect the representation that folks are getting. And you know, indigent folks does not, just because you're indigent does not mean that you are guilty.
Of course.
And what we need to make sure that we're ensuring that everybody gets a fair bite at the apple. Everybody gets a fair shot at the justice system. And when you have overloaded public defenders, unfortunately, people might plead to something that they don't want to. I know when I went to law school, the defenders clinic, the folks in that defenders clinic, I know none of them want to plead everything. Every one of them wants to take everything to trial in their heart, because that's what they want to do. They're litigators. They want to take these things to trial. They want to prove the innocence of their client. But when they have these caseloads that exceed what the normal caseload should be, it's problematic. And I think that we need to make sure that case caps are implemented in the for public defenders statewide.
I just want to add one of the things, piggybacking on what Damon said, one of the things we had a problem with when you look at the Attorney General's website, which I'm putting on the screen right now. He already had that power. He didn't need the governor to appoint him. That was kind of like, you know, he has the authority to investigate anything. He didn't need an executive order from the governor to become the special prosecutor. He could have done that at any point on his own. You understand what I'm saying? So the appointment of, I just thought that was
that, you know, and I mean, that was the point of the hypocrisy, because the Attorney General, even when the governor was an Attorney General and he refused, or he admonished Reverend Al Sharpton when we met with then Attorney General Cuomo for not referring the Detective Ridley case to the AG's office. So, you know, the understanding of the Attorney General. Well, then the Attorney General has to take it off his page. Then it's true, because put that back up and read that. I mean, that's on the Attorney General's own webpage. And what does it say, AJ?
As head of the Department of Law, the Attorney General is both the people's lawyer and the state chief legal officer. As the people's lawyer, the Attorney General serves as a guardian of legal rights of the citizens of New York.
Stop. The guardians of what?
Legal
the legal rights of the citizens of New York. So if
its organizations and its natural resources.
Right, but we're talking about the people.
Right.
So, you know, if that's the case, if he needs to be appointed special prosecutor, he needs to take that off his page. Because the Attorney General, since I've been in law enforcement for 27 years, has yet in New York to investigate on its own any questionable police shootings. Even if they're questionable police shootings on police officers, by other police officers. So, you know, if that's the case, that needs to come off the Attorney General's
The second
page.
part says the Attorney General serves all New Yorkers in numerous manners affecting their daily lives. The Attorney General's office is charged with the statutory and common law powers to protect consumers and investors, charitable donors, the public's health, environment, civil rights, the rights of wage earners and business across the state.
Well, then he has the power.
But those aren't criminal matters, gentlemen.
Well, it's civil rights. A person's civil rights is violated.
But if the act itself is a criminal matter, then the Attorney General probably more than likely does not have jurisdiction over that, which is why that special prosecutor's requirement was needed to be made.
Then, if the civil rights are violated, so he still doesn't investigate?
No, I'm not saying he doesn't, but what I'm saying is that when he's investigating, when the special prosecutor is appointed, right? What's the purpose of the special prosecutor being appointed?
Special prosecutors is appointed to investigate not just crimes, to see if there was a crime, and then to refer it to the matter.
So to address that,
right?
Skipping down to the end.
We
go to the website. Skipping down to the end, legal functions of the Department of Law, and he is the head of the Department of Law. That's the beginning. Are divided into 5 primary major divisions: appeals and opinions, state counsel, criminal justice, economic justice, and social justice.
Well, social justice is part of it.
But I'm saying criminal justice. That would be criminal justice, right?
I assume so. Yeah. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, you know, when it comes to issues of police criminality or civil rights, when it deals with black people in the United States and New York in particular, you know, it falls short.
Brother Kenneth Chamberlain added that it was just an attempt of appeasing the people of the governor signing an executive order only gave
and this has nothing to do with
justice.
You personally. This
has to do with the subject. Yeah,
is, you know, we have to look at it. You know, why hasn't, you know, the law has been passed and still with issues that there really haven't even been any, you know, investigation or even looking at it, and not that things still doesn't happen, you know, not that these issues are still not happening in New York or throughout the country, but we're basing it on New York.
Well, moving it back to you, because you're running for office,
right? Sure.
How do you what's your stance on you know, police brutality and the violating of individuals' rights by police officers?
It's absolutely terrible, but you know, you have to look at it from a realistic standpoint, right? That I truly don't believe that any officer goes into an interaction. I shouldn't say any, but the majority of officers do not go into interactions believing that they want to cause some sort of harm or injury to people. I would say the majority of folks, right? But when you have bad actors, those bad actors need to be punished. Period. You know, we need to find some sort of mechanism that's going to justly punish those folks. And what I would like to do is one, we need to encourage more folks of color to get involved, you know, from within. And I know sometimes people look at the career path, they don't necessarily want to be a member of law enforcement, but it's a very respectable career.
I agree.
People do, you know, you have a lot of great, you know,
27 years. So
you know,
I agree.
Listen, I've come up with a lot of folks who have joined the NYPD and other agencies as well, and these folks are good people who want to serve and protect.
Can I add something really quickly, just from like I'm not a politician looking at any of these things.
Absolutely.
But there's something I wanted to add, which is totally maybe related but unrelated. How many of you have been summoned to sit on a jury, and through your jury
without a
questionnaire
doubt.
away.
No, without a doubt.
And so then when there's prospective jurors to be able to sit in any particular cases,
Absolutely.
and then we wonder why there's no representation of us there because we don't want to sacrifice the time to sit in a jury.
Absolutely.
And so I have taken every chance I get, I want to open that up and I want to say I'm going to sit there because I want them to have to turn me away.
No, and I agree. I agree, and I
owe us stepping up to do that.
And unfortunately, when my name is called, and a lot of the DAs know who I am, I get kicked off.
Absolutely. So you would get kicked off.
I get kicked off very, very, very quick.
So Brother Jamal. So in communities like Mount Vernon, specifically Mount Vernon, but all across the country. I mean, in the Bronx, dealing with Molly Graham, people have seen time and time again. Not on a national scale, but especially, local, like Ramali Graham, the officers that have done these actions, black lives have been lost. No one's gone to jail. There has been no justice. People have been told, you have the young community who are now getting into their voting age and that as far as they're concerned, the system does not work. The system has failed them all their lives. If they on 25, the Rodney King thing was 25 years ago. So if you're 25 and under, that's all you've seen all your life, and nobody's ever gone to jail. You understand what I'm saying? So they don't believe in any politician. They don't believe in anything, and then they take the approach of, you know what, I'm not even going to vote. And that's not that's the answer, but that's the perceived perception of a lot of our youth who are now just getting to their voting age or our voting age.
Well, that's AJ. I'm going to break that apart in two parts, right? The first part that you said, I've been seeing this from Anthony Baez to Patrick Dorismond to Amadou Diallo to, like you said, Ramarley Graham to Eric Gardner. There's a pattern and there's a problem, and that it needs to stop, right? But what from that perspective, what we need to do is, and I understand that it's tough, I guess, within the ranks of law enforcement, from what I understand, having never been, a law enforcement officer. But we want the good folks to step up. I know that might be tough, but we want the good folks to step up. Like the recent shooting in Philando Castile in Minnesota, and we have the Alton Sterling shooting, and then we had the other Walter Scott, the man that had his hands up in Florida. Yeah. Like, for lack of a better term, to use basketball parlance, that's a layup. Right. Okay, he had his hands up. We can step out on this one, guys. This is the easy one for us to step out on. That action was wrong, right? I don't see how you can defend that action when the man gave himself up. He had his hands up. He had dialogue with these officers, saying, "This is who I am. This individual that I'm with is challenged, and he does not necessarily comprehend or understand what the situation is." So those situations like that, we need to make sure that good folks are stepping up, because by and large, I believe that they're more good than bad. We just need them to step up and maybe not with their blue on, but went outside of the ranks.
But how do we, once they step up, then what happens? How do we?
That's a great question.
Yeah, how do we get legislation, state legislation, to hold police officers accountable? Because these are officers that are certified by the state of New York. Each police officer or peace officer, whether they're in the courts or corrections, police department, they have a certificate from the state of New York that they pass what is called the minimum standards of whatever training that's in their academy. And then they go on to a police department, which is paid to operate by the taxpayers, of that city. And then they go and they violate their training of their certificate, and they violate the policies and procedures of that specific municipality, but they're not held accountable. How do we move forward with some type of legislation to hold these officers accountable, because they actually have a certificate on their wall, that they're past the minimum standards of the state of New York, but yet there's no state legislation to hold them accountable to that certificate.
That's a good idea for legislation. That's something that we'd have to look into in terms of, how is that applicable though? How does that really come about? What would a piece of legislation like that look like, first and foremost, right? And would it put any limitations on the officer's ability to do the job?
No.
Because I agree with what you're saying, Dave.
Not at all.
I agree with what you're saying, but I'm just looking at it from that perspective, from a lawmaker's perspective.
No,
but
not if they're following policy and
agree.
Training. Then they don't have a problem.
The chokehold was against police policy, but it's not against the law.
See, you have
no
a
law was
chokehold
broken,
which against police policy, but no law was broken. even though he violated policy. So we need some type of legislation to say if you actually violate policy that probably lead to a death, of a suspect, then, it's a crime.
Are you aware that right now in treatment programs, there's something in treatment programs called the Center for Justice? The Center for Justice oversees programs to make sure that if something happens wrong in that program, they file criminal charges if it's against policy.
Right.
So if that's the case for our treatment, I'm just saying, and this is for all programs. This is including the Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Service, the Office of Mental Health. This includes the Office of Family and Children's Services. So you see people in group homes. So if somebody gets injured severely or dies, the Center for Justice actually provides investigators, criminal investigators, to go into those agencies, and if they find that some culpability, the person can be charged and then put on what they call a vulnerable person central registry.
Right.
But law enforcement doesn't have that.
Corrections have it. See, corrections have it. If you die, if an inmate dies in any facility in New York State, the New York State Commission of Corrections investigates. It doesn't matter. They do an independent investigation on top of whatever correctional facility that's in it. The New York State Commission of Corrections come in and they do their own investigating. It's like every other department has an independent accountability system, but the police department in New York State.
Didn't you say that in internal affairs? What happened?
Well, internal affairs, police cannot. Police. And I mean, I've been in law enforcement 27 years, and that's the wrong way to go. And that was the issue with down in Baltimore, that even the DA's office was running roadblocked by their own internal affairs and actually getting information to prosecute the police. Right,
that was terrible.
The Freddie Gray case. Yeah. So we need a mechanism that is moving forward, and we also need to add in our use of force policies and our deadly force policy, the right to intercede, to make sure that the police officer, because his job is to uphold the law, if he sees a fellow officer violating use of force or deadly force policies, he must report it. He must report it. We need to put that in our use of force policies and our deadly force policies to hold officers accountable, and that's not happening.
You're correct.
And I'm reading one of your mailers. I'm putting it on the screen right now, and it says criminal justice reform. Jamal will advocate for the extensive criminal justice reform, including bail reform, grand jury reform, and the assignment of the special prosecutor. And since we're on the topic, I figured that'd be a good opportunity to give you.
Well, we just gave you some pieces of legislation to move forward.
Well, listen, the reality is, if I'm, and I pray I will be successful. One of the things that I always will tell people is that it goes back to when I was in church and they said God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you got to listen more than you talk, right? So the reality is that I feel I know a good amount of stuff, but what I don't know, I'm not afraid to ask for help on. So as far as the criminal justice system, if a brother, let's say with 27 years of experience in law enforcement, wants to have a conversation with me about what he thinks would be right, I have no problem listening to him. I'm not a yes man, so I'm not going to say, hey, whatever you say I'm going to do, but I have no problem having a conversation, especially with people that are knowledgeable on subjects, which is why I talk to educators about education. I talk to folks in the criminal justice system about criminal justice. You got to make sure you're talking to the people that know the subject matter. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm not afraid to ask people who are experts on their topic about their topic, to make sure that I can get a better understanding as a state senator, as just an individual, as a community member. You just want to have more information and more knowledge, And I think that's something that I would certainly advocate and certainly make sure that I'm talking to folks like yourself and other brothers in law enforcement and other ranks of law enforcement to see if we can have some sort of roundtable. Get some folks from criminal justice, from corrections, NYPD, MVPD, FBI. Let's see how it affects folks on each level, because we're all affected by each of it. We're all affected by each level of interaction, whether it's city, county, state, local municipalities. No matter what, we're all affected. So I think that we need to make sure what we're doing is we're collaborating together and engaging each other.
Yeah, anybody?
No, that was good. Go ahead.
No, I was just looking at anybody else had any questions.
Oh, okay. Now, I just want to give a shout. So we got a couple of people. Of course, Kenneth Chamberlain's on the check-in. Uncle Frank Trulio's on the check-in. Brenda Crump, as always, is on the check-in. And anytime somebody enters the studio or does anything or we speak on anything, she pops it up on the screen. So I just wanted to share that.
Shout out to Brenda. She's very active on social media.
Wow.
So the minute you walked in, she popped that up on the screen.
Okay.
And she gave me your card that I was reading from. That was actually from Brenda Crump. She popped those up on my screen. So I want to thank her. Bob, any questions for the
Yeah, Bob, you've been very quiet.
Yes.
Dr. Bob.
You are analytical thinker.
I in a way, I don't really know what to say because I think there's a much more fundamental problem in the policing system here in the United States.
Well, that's true.
Right.
But but let's
it has
just
to go with a culture of authoritarianism.
Focused, Bob.
And that's what I want to know. What are you going to do to attack the culture of authoritarianism that has entrenched itself?
How we do that, Dr. Bob? I think that from my perspective,
you a CUNY law student.
I was just about to get into that. We need more black and brown students in law school. Period.
Okay.
Yes.
We need more black and brown lawyers. When I went to CUNY Law, I was in a community and economic development clinic. I learned a lot of things about ways to structure economic development that we can get into at a later time and date about worker cooperatives. How I really feel that's going to be big.
Now you're talking my language.
Big. That's the wave of the future. Worker co-ops instead of one person. Instead of one vote, one share. It's one person, one vote. So everything is democratic. These things are more recession-proof.
Well,
I didn't mean to stray too far.
No. And I agree. We do need more black and brown, but we need more black and brown lawyers of conscience.
Yes.
Let's not forget that because we got black and brown lawyers now that are punks and they don't step up and really say what's going on in this justice system. What's the name of that organization? Black lawyers. What are they? The Black Bar Association. They're useless. We've reached out to them many a times to come and educate our black youth on their rights, and we don't hear nothing from them. I had this conversation with other lawyers. I'm like, yo, what are y'all doing? It's our people. So, I do agree. We do need more black and brown lawyers, but we also need them, with conscience. We have to, just like we need more black cops, but we also need black cops with conscience, because a lot of them are punks too and don't step up. Because I think we could stop police criminality in our communities overnight if the black cops step up.
Okay. Well, you remember the song from KRS-One back in the day, Black Cop, right?
Yeah. I remember it. You
thought I didn't know about that. You thought you looked at
listen,
at the age. You thought I didn't know about KRS. Huh?
Everybody knows about KRS, brother. You can't be in the Bronx.
You can't be in the Bronx. You can't be in the Bronx.
I can't go back home unless I know about KRS. But speaking of, I liken it to 20 years ago at the Source Awards, right? Remember when Suge said everybody wants to,
right in the video,
all up in the video.
Yeah.
I would say this to anybody: if anybody that wants to be a lawyer that wants to really be about social justice and conscience, come to CUNY Law School. Go to CUNY Law, because what you're doing is it's law in the service of human needs. That is the school's motto.
I might go and register.
We got a part-time program, Brother Damon. We got
I might go and register.
We might need you. Law in the service of human needs. It is.
I might just go over there and see what I could do.
I think that you should take that mic to a will.
Because I need to do another career now. I need to do something now. I've grown up.
CUNY Law is getting free advertisement right now, but seriously,
about to send them an invoice.
But it was a great school, Dr. Bob. You mentioned some of their social justice platforms, and that's the kind of environment that I come out of as a law student, understanding that we need to make sure that we have people who care. Everybody that I went to law school with care. They cared about different issues. Some folks were in the defenders clinic. Mine was economic justice and development. Some folks were in the International Women and Human Rights Clinic. The immigration clinic was amazing. Things that affect people on the ground, on the bottom lines. These are the kind of lawyers that we need. And so your point, Dr. Bob, just to put a pin in it, put a bow on, I should say, we need black and brown lawyers in our communities, as you said, Damon, who are unafraid to go against the status quo, but who also are understanding of their subject matter. Because the worst thing you can do is that When you say, oh, you're a lawyer, that means you can do this, this, and that. Lawyers have specialty just like doctors. You're not going to go to a podiatrist if your neck is messed up. You're not going to don't go to a criminal defense lawyer if you are looking for, I guess, a class action lawsuit concerning some sort of a marketing thing. You know what I mean? Like, we have to make sure that we have the right people in the right places and the apparatus is correct.
Absolutely. I go back to a lot of quotes. There's a quote that I came across recently. History shows that it does not matter who is in power or what revolutionary force takes over the government. Those who have not learned to do for themselves and have to depend solely on others never obtain any more rights or privilege in the end than they had in the beginning. And we're talking about two communities that are in your district, Mount Vernon and the Bronx.
Correct.
I think that is apropos to, and I wanted you to speak to that.
I think it's getting people more involved and engaged in what's happening. And again, it's not just around voter time. It's not just around petitioning time. It's on the off years and cycles. One of the things that I want to do is I want to do a four corners of the district type of meeting. I want my brothers and sisters from Mount Vernon to come meet my brothers and sisters from Co-op City. I want you to come meet brothers and sisters in Edenwald. I want you to meet brothers and sisters in Tracy Towers. I want to bring us together because while we might not share the same zip code or the same tax, base, we share so many more things in common than we do in different. And I think the reality is that when we bring people together, we can go together and on social media and we can share and meme thousands and thousands of times. But when it comes time to come outside, do we go outside together? And the answer is, by and large, unfortunately, we don't. We need to make sure that we get that spirit of people to be galvanized and engaged throughout the year, not just when tragedies happen. And I'm happy to see that people's responses when certain things happen in the community. But, you guys remember, it was 2 days back to back, Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, and everybody on social media was riled up and everybody was in an uproar. Then 2 weeks later, nobody is posting or nobody is having a conversation about that. So we need to make sure that collective spirit remains throughout the year, throughout the day. I know people have real lives to do. People have jobs. People have kids. They have concerns. They have mortgages. Real life gets in the way, but other people's lives are important too. Our own black brothers and sisters, their lives matter. Our brown brothers and sisters, their lives matter. Everybody's lives matter. I'm not going to hit you with the All Lives Matter hashtag because I'm on Black Lives Matter, but you gotta, Black lives do matter.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think they're waving you on, brother.
All right.
Okay,
time is up. They say you don't talk enough. Once you got the Black Lives Matter, time to go.
I have one question for you.
Sure.
When is the next? Are you having a senatorial debate between
Here.
you guys? Is
2
it going to
weeks.
be here? 2
Yeah.
weeks because that's something that I've been looking for. I
You
wanted
can
to
watch
hear
it live
from-
on your,
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
There's also a
Something.
debate at the I don't want to
the
at the
NAACP.
NAACP on the 17th at the Dole Center this
17th
Wednesday.
of August.
Right,
August.
and I believe
Okay.
we're going to hold off on calls, and I believe there's also one. The Fleetwood Citizen Society is trying to put one together for September 6th, I believe.
I've
for the
heard that
Society.
Fleetwood was
Right.
trying to do something. I don't
Right.
have any specific.
Right, I think
confirmation
I
on
just
that.
talked to them. They said it's going to be September 6th. But before you go, so anybody who's seeing you for the first time, they don't know who you are, they want to get involved in your campaign, or they want to follow you, or they want to read up on you more, where can you be found on social media, website? Can you?
Sure. So the website is JamalBailey.com. My parents were a little different. JamalBailey.com. JamalBailey.com. You can go to Facebook / Jamal T Bailey. JamalTBailey. Same thing on Twitter. And the phone number is 347-866-8437 if you want to reach out to our campaign and get involved and ask questions and let your voice be heard.
If you have a few more seconds, we have a caller who had a question for you.
Sure.
Caller, please state your name and your question for the candidate.
This is Brother Jeff. I'd like to pose at least one question to the candidate because I noticed that we've been talking about social justice, and I realized that social justice in America is mostly centered around Black and Latino, and of course First Nations populations when we get deep on it. But I realized that we don't. I mean, that's reactionary. We don't generally talk proactively. So I'm curious, and I'm going to preface the question this way because we've seen at least two different races in the last year or so that have led the voting population of Mount Vernon in particular basically be diluted by a field so wide that it basically split up the vote so many ways that we ended up with a candidate that is obviously not serving a black agenda, and in fact seems to serve more of a gentrification agenda, even though he happens to be black. In Harlem, we just saw the loss of any real black control in politics to what is essentially an East Harlem Latino vote, which is fine culturally, but the fact is if you can't control the black vote in Harlem, again, such a wide field, it shows a complete lack of proactive thinking in the way of the Democratic Party or anyone running. So considering that the state Senate has no real authority to speak for black folks, I mean, we have black state senators, but it's been spoken to in very clear terms that there's almost no power for black folk in the state Senate. All right, we have Democratic Party power, but that's not black, as we can see in federal politics. So coming forward now, considering that we have a TPP.
Okay, no disrespect. We need you to get to the question. I need you to get exactly to the question because this is his last question before you leave. So.
All right. So considering we have a Trans-Pacific Partnership that's going to erode the entire labor market of the country if we get any candidate that's currently the representation of either party, corporatist parties, what other than just jobs do we have in proactive terms coming from our candidates going forward?
Do you mean nationally or just at this level? Because that seemed to be, Brother Jeff, it was a great question, but that question seems more nationally focused. On a state level, I really believe that, again, I touched on them earlier. Education is a foundational issue. It's a baseline issue, making sure that people are better educated so that they can get better jobs in the future, and also paying attention to people in terms of making sure we meet them where they are, not trying to make a square fit a triangle slot, making sure that we find what people's skills and talents truly are earlier, making sure that we do not abandon vocational training, making sure that our brothers and sisters in labor and in the building trades are taken care of so that they can continue to prosper when they are building up our cities and states and our roads, and making sure that those things are taken care of. In terms of you touched on it earlier about the diluting the field, I believe that democracy is democracy. Anybody that is able to make the ballot and wants to run, I have no position on trying to tell anybody to not chase their dream or to not, serve their community. I can't speak to that. Do I wish that some of us looked at other options, and I'm not talking about this race, but I'm talking about in general. Everybody can't be the elected official. I'll be the elected official. You be the banker. You be the this, and you be the that, and we can grow power that way. But as far as a wider field, I'd say that I encourage everybody that wants to do it.
Well, I want to thank you I know you had to go, and for taking our caller. We encourage the callers to call in, so they had a question for you, and I appreciate that.
Of course.
And we're looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks engage with the other candidates, and thank you for coming through.
Yes, thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great talk.
Pleasure.
Talk.
Thank you, brother.
God bless you all.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Now we will get into our next guest, and let me see if I still have that picture up. I'm trying to find that picture again. You've done a lot of things. Why don't you let me run? What? Wait.
Nothing. Never mind.
Damon's mind, like I don't know where that was going. Like I'm like, hold on, what? So I was going to give you the opportunity. Tell us who you are, what you do. Let's start there.
Wow. Wow. Again, like I said, my name is Patrice Wallace-Moore. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Arms Acres Incorporated. Arms Acres is a drug and alcohol treatment program in Carmel, New York, but it serves individuals that go from lower New York State, the boroughs, all the way up to, I would say, Poughkeepsie area. Actually, we've taken people all the way from Ithaca and upstate New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. We have 179 inpatient beds, mostly short-term. We have an outpatient program in the Bronx or Jerome Avenue, and we have one in Queens in Kew Gardens, one in right up the street here on Hastings and Hudson's at the Green Chimneys Children's Residential Center. And so we provide treatment services to a wealth of individuals from all over the place. And we also have a sister program in further upstate New York in the Albany area called Conifer Park that has 225 beds. So I've been in substance abuse since 1990, dealing with individuals from all over the place. I just recently was part of Governor Cuomo's heroin task force, so the major legislation that went forth as far as heroin and the treatment of opioid addictions. I was a part of the task force that traveled across the state of New York to enact that legislation. I'm also part of the Governor's Behavioral Health Services Advisory Council. I chair the Regulations Committee for the Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services and Office of Mental Health through the Behavioral Health Service Advisory Council. And I also am a consultant for the state of New York when programs are struggling. The commissioner will ask me to go in and take a look at them and see if there's any assistance I can provide. So there's a lot of hats.
And you are also a pastor?
I'm a minister. I'm an ordained minister.
Okay,
not a pastor. I'm an ordained minister. I'm an associate minister at the Emmanuel Pentecostal Faith Temple here in Mount Vernon, New York. And I was the former basketball coach at Mount Vernon High School.
That's right.
For 10 years. You know, and that was really, that was my passion. That was something that I really enjoyed doing. But, you know, my job took more of my time than I really could provide to the kids.
Now, is that how you and your husband met, over your love of basketball?
No, not well. Love of basketball, yes, but not through coaching. I mean, I've known of Lowe's since I was 12, and the first time I ever saw him was on a basketball court at County Center playing against Yonkers High School, and he was in a dunk contest, and he lost. I can't believe it, but he lost, and that's the first time I ever saw him. And we didn't date until we didn't go out on the first date till about 6 or 7 years later when I was legal. Shall I say?
Thank goodness
which is a good thing. Which is a good thing.
Observe the rule of law.
So, but yeah. So basketball was the catalyst for that relationship,
right.
and we've been married. We just celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary this past.
God bless y'all.
Right.
God bless y'all.
With the divorce rate, that's we need to know that there are couples that do stay together. So yeah. So yes. I got actually a chance to meet you at his book signing.
Oh, right.
At the Boys Club, and your husband is Lowe's Moore. Used to play professional basketball and is the executive director of the Mount Vernon Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
So just for those who don't know who we're talking about, so
yes.
Now you asked. I wanted to go back. You said something about the legislation. I know I wrote a story about that. Was that the law that is looking as far as incarcerating people with that have habits or something, or trying to find alternative?
No,
is that
actually they really more or less moved away from the incarceration. There's a lot of it, but there is an expectation though, and I'm going to tell you what I'm a proponent of, and maybe it's maybe an agreement or disagreement with individuals, but
right.
You know, one of my issues is I run a treatment program, and some of the most vulnerable people to have to receive drugs are people who are in treatment because they're withdrawing. And so when a person brings drugs into a treatment program to sell drugs to a person who's trying to get off drugs, it's kind of like putting candy in front of a little 5-year-old kid and saying to them, don't eat it. Don't touch it.
Right.
You know, so I do believe that there needs to be some extensive legislation when any time anybody brings drugs into an environment, kind of the same way with schools. I mean, there's stricter laws, and I'm sure Damon probably could talk a little bit about this, but there's stricter laws if you bring drugs in the vicinity of a school. I believe that there should be something similar when you're bringing it in a treatment program, because you're really, those folks are at heightened levels of risk.
Right.
And so and what's happening now in our treatment programs across the state is more and more people are actually dying in treatment because one of the drugs that's getting through is heroin. One of the things about heroin and fentanyl and some of these other drugs is there's no smell.
No.
So it used to be if a person smoked, they got high, you know, marijuana, something like that. You can
smell it on them.
You know, you can smell cigarettes, you know, but these things that are getting through can't smell it. You know, and one of the issues that was really raised during the legislation, we went all over the state. I mean, literally there were 8 regions that we went to. We went to Buffalo, Binghamton, Lake Placid, Schenectady, Long Island, Staten Island, and there was one in Brooklyn. And the only place that I really saw a significant amount of people of color was in Brooklyn. I had a problem with that, you know, because I said, is this drug not an issue for us? The reality is I recognize the fact that back in the old days, we were having problems with this drug. But the legislation didn't come forth till it didn't come in our community anymore. Once it got out, once it infiltrated into the other communities, the affluent communities, money went towards it and legislation came forward, you know, and so I do recognize that was an issue. But once the door gets open to provide more accessibility to treatment, we need to not be foolish and say, well, they didn't do it for us. We need to walk through that door while the door is open. And get our people into treatment while they can, while we can get them into treatment, get them cared for.
Absolutely. And lovely Brenda sent me a video of you. Well, video link. Is it playing?
Wow, yeah.
What's the video?
Addiction is a disease that doesn't just impact the individual. It impacts the family. It doesn't discriminate. But recovery, now that's real. There are various types of treatment for substance abuse. Outpatient treatment, inpatient treatment, which includes detox and rehabilitation, as well as longer-term residential treatment and community residence. There are also numerous self-help groups, such as Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, as well as Al-Anon, to provide you and your loved ones support and guidance throughout your treatment and recovery process. The first step in treatment is to complete an evaluation. This will assess your level of addiction and what would be the best treatment for you. It will include a history of your drug or alcohol use, the age when your use began, other medical issues, and emotional issues. An outpatient treatment clinic is often the best place to have an evaluation done. Throughout the various types of treatment, a patient can go from one stage to the other as they progress through their recovery. Addiction is a chronic disease which can include relapse and
that was one of several videos that she sent me links to. I just pulled up the first one. Now, what was that? That was
well, during that particular time, there was a request for informational videos to go across the state so people would understand how to access treatment and when to access treatment. Okay. And so there were several bites that had been recorded by different individuals, including the commissioner, the medical, the chief medical officer for OASAS, and Dr. Charles Morgan, and their chief legal counsel, Robert Kent, and several other individuals who were letting people know the impact of heroin and opioid addiction, you know, which is really huge because right now it's also big because of prescription pills. And so you ever go to the doctor and you have surgery on you go to the dentist and you get your tooth pulled, right? So they give you 30 pills, you know, Oxycontin. You might only need 7. Or it's just 30-day supply, right? You only need 7.
Ooh, Oxycontin, boy.
Right?
Let me tell you. I broke my ankle. Boy,
and so you need
they give you stub his toe next.
They give you more than you need. Yeah. You know, and that sits in your cabinet. So what happens is maybe a couple of months later you break your toe. You know, you don't use your toe Oxycontin, you use your dental Oxycontin, right. Or you use something else. And the more that sits in the cabinet, you know, people begin to use it inappropriately. Or this is what happens, right? Now, I don't break my toe. Age. Dr. Bob breaks his toe. He goes, yo, Cheese, you got some Oxycontin? Right? It's illegal for me to give him Oxycontin for his toe. But I cannot tell you how many times people will share those medications with somebody else, and it leads to, you know, addictive behavior. Right. And we missed. That's missed. And it gets more and more dangerous with each episode.
You know, it's funny. When I lived in Atlanta, and I was actually I was talking about I was a manager, assistant manager at McDonald's, and the owner of the McDonald's, somebody got hurt, and he was like, "Oh, just send you to the hospital now. Just bring me back some whatever it was." This was the manager. He was like, "Just split whatever you get with me." Like I was like, because he used to have bad headaches and stuff and back pains, and he was getting pills from other people, and it was like, so I know that goes on all the time though.
Oh yeah, and people, and what happened was about 3-4 years ago, maybe, we would get people in treatment, and the managed care companies would say things like, well, a person's not going to die from heroin withdrawal. But what they don't realize is that heroin withdrawal causes so much pain that people want to continue to use to stop the pain, and eventually it could lead to death. So now they're having these things where if a person overdoses, they have this thing called Narcan. right?
Right.
Narcan will keep you from dying, so, people, have to be trained in how to make sure they can administer Narcan so a person doesn't overdose from, from heroin.
I first came across the whole, I was unfamiliar with Narcan until a recent episode DMX had. And
yes.
they gave him Narcan, but it didn't work because they thought that he was on whatever it was, and he actually wasn't. But the Narcan didn't work.
Yeah, I believe they did that to Prince on the plane.
Okay.
That's the rumor that they had out there that he experienced that, but because he had pain. He had problems with his hips, and I believe his ankles
right.
and
From
things
jumping
like
off of speakers and all kinds of, and heels.
High heels.
Yeah, right.
In high heels.
High heels, But people underestimate how subtle that disease will come upon you, that addiction will come upon you. So, that's one of the things that I do. I really get out there and I talk about it. And and I'm one of these individuals that, even though I run an acute care program, you really need. Some people need long-term treatment. Some people need to go into programs long-term. So I also work with a program in Harlem called Addicts Rehabilitation Center, and it's a long-term treatment program. So there's a lot of things that that I do, that I stay in contact with Trust to try to help the community when it comes down to that.
Now there's a commercial going on. I've been seeing it a lot lately. There's one guy and it's two guys eating breakfast, and the guy's like, "You're not eating your breakfast," and he's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "What's the matter?" And he's like, "Yo, my kid, they started taking the pills or whatever, or they started taking someone else's pills in the house." I guess that happens a lot too when you have those pills in the house, and then your kids get over a certain age and they start experimenting. I'm hearing there's a lot more of that going on too.
Well, there's also a lot of athletes or different individuals who get injured, and they, football players, different things like that, and they pick it up. I believe recently, in the last month, there's a local high school here in Westchester that had several of their students, former students, who passed away from heroin overdoses. And so this is a huge epidemic that's happening right here in our community. So, I've tried to do what I can to stay involved. There are a couple of programs called Drug Crisis in My Backyard. That's up in the Putnam area. FIST, which is Family and Supportive Treatment, which is out in the Long Island area. And I'm not familiar with the advocacy programs that we have here actually in Westchester County. But I know that both FIST and Drug Crisis in My Backyard have come into the Westchester County area to provide support for families who've lost children. These people who've lost children, one of my favorite sayings that I've been sharing with them is, they lost their children and they didn't go under a rock and hide and cry and say, well, my kid has died because of this, and so poor me, poor me. They turned their pain into a campaign. They got out there and said, what can I do to make sure that nobody else's child dies? And I admire them for that, because I've never lost a child, but I can only imagine the pain that somebody would feel losing their child to anything. We talked a little earlier about the shootings and the different things like that. Anytime a mother loses a child, and the child could be 50, if the mother's 70, it still hurts. So, anything that, we can do to try to intervene and help before that happens, that's what I'm invested in doing.
Right. So anything I haven't asked you that you want to get out there, or you want to tell people that people need to know, or any misconceptions, or just...
Well, I think one of the things that was on the advertisement was that, it doesn't discriminate. I mean, this is something that we've been dealing with this in our communities for years. The crack epidemic hit our communities hard, and that goes back to a lot of the gentrification that we talked about too. You put us all in one area, and you think everything's going to be okay. Somewhere down the line, we've got to be able to recognize that there's a huge world out there. There's a book that I read recently by Ta-Nehisi Coates called Between the World and Me, and it's an amazing book. It makes you think. But one of the things that in his writing, he talked about living in inner city Baltimore, and he thought that was kind of like the world. That was the it, and he was trying to teach his son about these are the type of ways that people are. But he ended up going to Howard University, and while he was there, he realized that black people were extremely diverse. And people have a tendency to think that when we say Black Lives Matter, that is just this one circle of black people. We are in an incredibly diverse group of individuals.
Absolutely.
You know, I can tell you, you call an African person black, they might rip your head off.
Absolutely.
You know, you call a Jamaican person just black, they'll be quick to tell you, I'm West Indian.
Or you call a Caribbean person Jamaican.
Jamaican,
they're not Jamaican.
They might be Jamaican. You know, so we are extremely diverse, and there are some people who are Latino that have the dark skin, and you would think that they're black, but they're from Cuba. You know, or they're Dominican. So we are diverse, but our faces all look the same, you know.
Absolutely.
And so we have to recognize that, you know, even though you put that umbrella name on the rest, that we are extremely diverse, and our issues, though they seem to be the same, are different. And one of the things that he learned when he went to Howard was that, wow, there is a diversity amongst black people, which is not just in our skin and our culture, but in our religions, you know, and all the things that we face. And so he wrote this letter to his son to say, thinking that he was going to teach him one way, and he actually broadened his thinking later on and said, I don't want you to be in prison even by my way of life. I want you to make a decision for yourself.
Absolutely.
So I didn't agree with everything he wrote, but I agreed with the process.
Absolutely.
And I thought the process was powerful.
So, what is dancing in our backyard?
Dancing in our backyard, again, is I'm being honored on September 10th out in Carmel, and again the families who started drug crisis in our backyard. One of the woman Susan Solomon was actually on the heroin task force with me, and when we were in Long Island, one of the events, she came to me and she said, you know, we want to build a recovery house, and she had gone to the county legislator and said, what should I do to try to get some money? She said, why don't you do a fundraiser and honor somebody? And, you know, if you know anything about, you know, Putnam County, you know, there's not a lot of people of color in Putnam County, you know. So for her to come to me and say, I would like to honor you, really touched me, you know, that she said, you know, people don't know who you are. They don't really know what you've done. And I realized that a lot of people in my own community don't know what I've done. They don't know what I actually do, other than being the basketball coach. And, you know, so, you know, it was important for me to say, you know, when she asked me that, I said, yes, I would be willing to receive that honor. They've already sold out all the tables.
Wow.
And I'm floored, you know, that that would actually happen. And so I'm humbled and floored. And Brenda, you know, gets on my case because she says I don't really say a lot about what I do and things like that, because, you know, the work has to speak for itself. I don't like to really say what I do, but I let the work speak for itself.
And I have to say, like I said, I had seen you before, but I talked to you for the first time at the book signing, and I was aware you had did the prayer, so I knew you were a preacher, or, you know. Yeah. And but all of this other stuff I never knew. Like all of this, I'm learning for the first time too. A lot of this, so it's like, it's interesting. You never know. You just never know. Like
the things that come out. I recently preached a sermon that said, I'd rather be transparent than exposed.
Absolutely.
That's right.
To be honest with you, at the end of it, I talked about the fact that had the transparency of what was going on in our communities and with the policing, had there been transparency, there wouldn't be video cameras to expose
So
you.
can I ask for a personal favor? So if you can send me a copy of that, I would love to make copies and give it out to individuals in City Hall right now, elected officials. Right? Like for real.
You know,
like that's a message that needs to get out.
Yeah, because when you're exposed, it's horrible.
Because if you're not transparent, you will be exposed.
Transparency is voluntary.
That's right.
So that means you get to tell your own story.
That's right.
Right.
When you're exposed, somebody else tells your story, and they normally get it wrong.
Right.
There's always something that they add that's going to skew the exposure to their side of the story.
That's right.
You know, so, but when you're transparent, you can say, you know what? You know, it's kind of like I used to tell my kids when they would get in trouble. You better hope you tell me everything.
That's right.
I get to that principle.
That's
I
right.
get to that teacher, because if they tell me something you didn't say, everything you said is going to be a lie. So they would say, well, Mommy, yes, I did that, and I did this, and I did that, and I did. I say, oh, get it all out now, because if I find anything else. So I raised them to be transparent.
That's right.
Because if they got exposed, they were going to have a problem.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of how I try to live my life, you know. I tell on myself if I let you tell on me.
That's right.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. Like, I've written for years, and I'm, I've either had blogs or wrote for magazines, or now I've had various radio shows. So basically, I tell you more than you can dig up on me. All you gotta do is listen to me long enough, and you know what I'm saying. I usually tell you, but I like to applaud you. People we need to see, especially our young sisters, need to see women of color like yourself. You know what I'm saying, and that they can achieve to be that. And we talk about I've had, like, my mother, when I got to be 7, when I was 7, my mother moved us out to Long Island. So I lived out there from 7 to 14, and I've lived other places outside of Mount Vernon, and I'm back. And I realized the difference of some people who have never left Mount Vernon. And when I lived in Harlem, and I stayed on 115th Street, I lived near the projects, and there were people, their whole world was 115th to 117th, from 5th Avenue to 8th Avenue. Like, that was their world. Like, nothing outside of that existed. You know what I'm saying? And so we need to see, we see a lot of negative stuff in our community. So when we can use our forum to uplift someone like yourself, it's definitely a pleasure.
I have to say that the one thing that was really powerful for me was to come back home to coach.
Okay.
Because my goal was to invest in the young ladies and to teach them how to be successful.
Right.
And if we never won a championship, that would have been fine for me.
Right.
But when I see the ladies like Taylor Palmer, who works for the New York Liberty, and my daughter Sherelle, who works at Howard University as a basketball coach, I see those who are nurses becoming NPs. Danielle Brown, who's a lawyer, and when I see these kids that they were with me when they were little girls, that are now the successful women that I had always wanted them to be. One of my other young ladies, Shanice Stewart, has just graduated with her master's in engineering. These kids were kids that were basketball players that you just thought were basketball players, but all I wanted to do was invest in them so they could see success, that they would dress for success, that they would understand that there was a sisterhood on the basketball team. I'm a Mount Vernon high school Lady Knight. When I was in high school, we won the state championship. I'm still close friends with the girls that went to high school with me who are successful women, and we need to invest in our kids. And I have to say thank you for recognizing me as a woman, but I recognize you all as men. I'm going to tell you, as a woman, I am very proud of the strong black men, men of color that are doing great things. That gives me goose pimples, and I want to encourage you guys to continue to represent, continue to be strong, and even though we disagree, that's all right, because I think that there's progress in disagreement. There's progress in not always being on the same side, but we have to come and reason together at some point so that we can become successful.
And not take everything personal because you have an opinion.
No, exactly.
Well, I want people around me who have opinions. I do not want people around me that are going to say yes to everything I say.
They should.
And I don't know everything. You're only stronger with people, strong people who have opinions. Because you learn from them and they learn from you. You know what they say? My mother used to say, if you're the smartest person in your group, you need to find another group.
That's right.
Because you can't grow. You can never grow.
Right.
Yeah. So
I had a statement that said, "If you don't learn from your experiences will continue until you learn."
Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
But I do thank you.
But I thank you for your comment, because being that sometimes is not always a very popular thing to do, and puts a bullseye on your back sometimes.
There's a lot of people that say negative things about our men. That I won't be me. I will find something positive about, because I believe in order for somebody to move forward and to be strong, you have to hear positive. And now listen, let me be clear. I don't sugarcoat nothing.
Absolutely.
All right, so if you're wrong,
and this is the show.
I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm just speaking truth, when it needs to be spoken.
Right. But yeah, we need to come together and let our differences, collectively bring our thoughts to the table and be able to walk away. Like, I think we don't know how to agree to disagree.
Absolutely.
Just the fact you felt some way and I felt some other way. Like, that's it for the rest of your life. Like I can't understand that behavior for real.
And we also have to recognize that even if we disagree, even in the black community, like people go, "Oh my goodness, black people, you're going after against each other." Every community has that.
Right.
It shouldn't be like this experience turns into a macrocosm of like danger. It happens in the white community. Look, Hillary and Donald Trump they're both white. And
That's
they're going against each other.
And rich.
You know, right. So it doesn't mean that because we have differences of opinion that the black community is falling apart. It means it's thinking harder.
And you know what? And when, you know, and now that you said that, you know, when they see a crowd at the city council meeting and they're complaining, oh, you're you know, putting our laundry out there. If you go in the white community and city council meeting, they're packed all the time.
Right. And they don't always agree.
Right. And when I first came to Mount Vernon, it wasn't but white people in the city council meeting. It wasn't no black people from the south side. It was mostly people from the north side complaining. You know, but they never said it to them. You know, well, now that it's mostly black folks in there, oh, why are you putting our dirty laundry out? No, these people have the right to voice their opinion on how they want to see their community. And I you know, and it behooves me, you know, how putting our dirty laundry out, you know, on accountability. That's.
I mean, it's fundamentally an anti-democratic position to take in the first place.
Right.
To not be able to have that discussion.
That's right. Not to have the discussion and not to have it in the appropriate public forum.
Right.
Where these issues are supposed to be taken up and where your elected representatives are supposed to formulate some sort of policy to address them. And it really is deeply disappointing because we continue to hear this all the time.
Every meeting.
You know,
if you don't, you only come here with negative stuff. If you don't like Mount Vernon, sell your home and move. Like a councilman has actually said that to a resident from Fleetwood, not even one of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think that was more. You know, never say anything.
I mean, what I think it fails to also take into account is that, insofar as we've had a diversification in the black community, it is to be expected that as our economic positions diverge from one another, we've seen this increasingly in the city of Mount Vernon and across the state, that we have fundamentally, or very often, very different types of needs, and that the job of a legislator is to try to find a way to address these diverse needs and not allow them to go unmet, which too often happens in our communities. Poor black people whose needs go unmet when we do not have some sort of vigorous democratic debate about which way forward, even on issues, you know, drug addiction, the underlying root causes of drug addiction. And so, yeah, we need to have more of that, not less of it.
Absolutely. And it's actually healthy. I think the thing that becomes difficult is when you have healthy disagreement, there is also unhealthy disagreement.
Absolutely.
You know, and so we have to recognize that there's times that we have to kind of like do like a boxing match and go into your corners and say, all right, we need to take a breath, because sometimes it gets a little unhealthy.
Absolutely. And one of the things when we first started Black Westchester, they were like, you know, but you're writing negative stuff about Mount Vernon. Well, we were dealing with the black community on the whole, not just Mount Vernon. And it was like, yo, but, you know, we're not going to just write, like, to only write the good things and keep your head in the sand does not solve the problems. That's my whole stance as far as that's concerned. And if you just want somebody to write all of those good stories, you got the Mount Vernon Inquirer for that. You know, seriously, I mean, like, they can give you, they do. That's what they've done for years. No, but that's what they do.
Everything is fine in paradise.
But it was 50 people. Oh man, 100, 300 people were there. You know, But I don't believe in giving. But see, the other thing is that they're like, but you know, about the putting our laundry out there. I don't believe that you should get a pass if you're a police commissioner, if you're a mayor, if you're any elected official, any person of power, because you're black. I think I should be harder on you because you should have known better. And I mean, that's just how I feel. You know what I'm saying? And I know we're entitled to our own opinions, but I feel like, you know, when, you know, things are not set up for us. You know what I'm saying? When people who don't look like us do certain things, you know, we complain. But when people who grew up like us then become those people then that are doing those things to us, I think that they need to be dealt with, like on whatever levels. And I'm strongly feel like, you know, holding people's feet to the fire. If you know that's what we do, we need to be critical of ourselves, and we need to hold each other up to higher standards. You know what I'm saying? And it's not always beating a person up. Sometimes it's just like, you know, with the current mayor, I started out dealing with the issues, never really attacking him, but it was just certain issues that he just didn't do certain things. And I reached out to him any different ways I could, but I ran out of ways to reach out to him though. So now I have to be a little more aggressive in some of the things. But we have to hold our feet.
I think the only thing that they have issues with primarily is that when there are good things, because there are some things that are not okay, but when there are good things, say that they're good things.
Well, and we do that,
both ways.
and we do that. And that's why I said it's a pleasure to have you on the show, because a lot of times we don't, we one of the things we tried to do, and we try to do more of it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things going on in the community across the board, not just Mount Vernon, but across the board. We one of the things for Black Westerners, we wanted to spotlight those unsung heroes in the Black community who have been putting in work for years, but they don't get awards and they don't get acknowledged. And every Black community has a few of them, and some of them have more than a few. You know what I'm saying? But they don't get awards, and they just do it every day, day in, day out, and they've affected so many people. But the mainstream media will never give them, you know what I'm saying, any accolades. And I think that's what, that was an important role of what we tried to do as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I do appreciate that. And like I said, the power, you guys, hey, you keep it real. I mean, sometimes you got to sand it with what do you call it? Sometimes they have the sandpaper that has the rough edges.
That's right.
Sometimes to get it smooth, you got to get the rough edges off before you get the soft. That's how it goes sometimes. So I thank you.
Your friend Brenda said, don't be embarrassed to tell them who you are and what you do. You won't be boasting, bragging, and showing off. You will be sharing the goodness of God. Remember, the Lord has blessed you to be more than just a basketball coach. LOL. Extraordinary woman, change the world. So
she's if there's not a cheerleader out there, that would be Brenda. Like, Brenda is
right.
She's gonna if I'm wrong or if I'm doing something, I can always check with her because she will put me in my place.
Oh, if I'm wrong in the story, I don't have to check with her. Yeah. My phone rings. I'm getting a series of text messages. Yes,
those are real friends. Those are real people in your life. They tell you the truth. Whether they like what you do or they don't like what you do, they tell you. And I'm grateful to have her. In my life as a friend. We train. I do a workout on Sundays, usually from September to May at the Boys and Girls Club.
And she have the pictures of the flyers with
she trains with me, and so I just try to, and I do it free. So I just kind of let any of the women that want to come and work out, we come and work out, and I actually bought all the equipment, over $1,000 worth of equipment.
Wow.
So just come on in and
that's
work
great.
out. We gotta do something.
Another applause.
Stay healthy. We gotta stay healthy.
Absolutely. Anybody else? I've been running my mouth. Dr. Bob, you're a little quiet there. He said, you just put me on the spot. He just had that.
Please. Bob, say something.
You've been quiet, man.
Bobby, are you okay? Are you okay, Bobby?
Do something different? Want me to do something different?
No. And Bob, Bob is, what's wrong with you, man? You're quiet.
He goes from, he'll have the most intellectual thought, and then this other side comes out, the community activist dude, when something's wrong, he banging on it. This is the two different. Today is just this quiet
he's
individual.
Nice to me?
Yeah, I don't know. He's just quiet today.
Well, you still reflecting on earlier conversation? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's looking at stats of overdose.
But a lot of people now. Bob don't get a lot. A lot of people don't know, man. This dude, as far as stats, as far as maps, as far as whatever data, this is that dude. That's what he does.
Well, I really don't know much at all about the way that the heroin epidemic has manifested itself in the Black community. Both my experience many years ago on the streets. Was that heroin use had really declined significantly within the Black community, and much of the news coverage that we see today tends to focus on the plight of heroin, the rise in heroin use within the broader white community. And so I wonder, maybe you could, tell us about how the heroin epidemic is impacting, communities of color, the African American community, and not just the broader white community. Is it really a problem in the African American community, or am I just
anecdotally? I think anecdotally it's on the rise now. I think because the way things happen is they start in one community and they infiltrate the other, and so right now what I'm hearing that it's becoming more of an impact in our communities. But see, as you said, data has to be reported. Right? So if you don't report the information, data is only as good as what's reported. So if nobody is really talking about it, it's hard. That's why I said it's anecdotal. What's happening in the other communities, it's because it's being reported because of the overdoses. So because you're seeing the amount of people going in and out of the emergency rooms with overdosing and how many Narcan episodes that there are, that's why they're reporting. Every time Narcan is being used, it actually has to be reported. So that's how you're able to report it in those communities. It has not infiltrated us to that degree, but we need to get it before it does, because once it gets us, we take it to a whole nother level.
Right.
Absolutely.
And see what happens with the opioid epidemic is it starts out as prescriptions and then it goes into what we're familiar with, which is heroin. And heroin is much cheaper and is much more accessible, in the communities, and so we need to be very careful because it is killing folks.
Couple of other we have a couple of listeners, K-Star, Sean Montgomery, who does a show on Saturdays here, Janine Boyd, somebody I used to go to church with in Atlanta, and we got a comment from Bishop Edwards, who said, "Great show, guys."
Thank you, Bishop.
David looked at me like, "For real?" Like, no, that's what it said. Thank you, Bishop.
Thanks, Bishop. We appreciate that.
We appreciate that. And to everybody who's listening.
Yes, we
like
always
I said,
appreciate when people listen to us.
Coming on we just passed our 2-year anniversary in both Black Westchester and People Before Politics. And again, this is episode 90. And it wouldn't be possible, the things that we're actually doing and trying to do and where we're trying to take things, without the listeners, without the readers, without those who follow and support us, without the advertisers, let me just say that. And people like Brenda, who, I'm sitting here and I got all these screens in front of me and there's a whole lot of things that come in our mouth, but some of that stuff is because Brenda just posted it there. Real quick, like, it wasn't like I didn't know that 5 minutes before that. So people like Brenda and other people, and Brenda is one of like 3 women who I will post a story and I will have edited it and I will go through it and I will get text, you got typos. You ready? Paragraph 3. Like, seriously.
We need that.
And Caitlin Gleason's another one, and it's just like a couple of people, my friend Patty, that they will always go and I'll post it and I've just gone through and I'm proud. I'm like, yeah, I got all of them. And I get a text from one of them saying, you got typos, right? so but that's what makes us better. That help us get better and to grow into more of a state excellence, So our success.
That's so powerful that my husband and I talked about that today. He actually talked about it. He preached today and he was on the pulpit and he shared a story. We were at a couples retreat this weekend and I shared a story about when he first started out, he would write things and there would be some grammatical errors in there. And when I first would say something to him about it, he would be like he would get upset. And then I said, baby, this is you, and I want to make sure when you put something out there, it represents you in a positive light. And then he would start sending things to me and say, oh, baby, take a look at this. And when he first started sending it, there would be like errors in it. And now he'll send me something, there might be one thing wrong because he has grown into his writing skill, and now he's on it, and I said, we have to have check and balance.
Right,
absolutely.
With the check and balance.
Absolutely.
We got to make sure we like that.
And it's funny because one of Damon's friends or somebody that knew him for a while was like, oh, that's why Damon's writing's getting so much better because you're here. You're right. No, that's Damon. Like Damon, he'll send me his press releases and stuff that go out for blacks and law enforcement. He'll send me to edit. And there was sometimes I'd be like, maybe you might want to say it this way. But this is all that's Damon doing that. Like, they're like, oh, his writing took a whole nother level. Well, that's a credit to him.
Well, the more you write, the better you'll be.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. I won't send it to Bob because I won't. Because I won't.
You might not get it back.
Yeah. Well, you said
be like, yo, Bob, I was waiting for that. What happened?
You sent it to Bob. You sent it to Bob at 9:00 on Sunday on August 3rd. And you might get it back before Christmas.
That's because he's still editing it.
Yeah, he's still editing it. Yeah. I'm still got to edit. I'm like, dude.
You know what you call it? It's robotomized.
Yo, crazy.
But But it's good. It's good stuff.
But it's good other people push it. Like, I mean, last year when we were spending time around Bob and I'm working on some stories, he'd be like, yo, and he'll throw a word that I had never heard, and I go look it up, and I'm like, hey, that's great. And I'll get all these compliments from, scholarly people. Be like, hey, man, that's very few times I have to look up a word. That was great usage of the word. It was hanging around Bob. I was like, yo, what was that word again? How do you spell that? Like, I'll be picking a couple of words off of him every now and then.
I think we should not take lightly the Bishop Edwards listening in, because our preachers need to understand the addictions that's out there. A lot of times people look at substance abuse and addictions and mental health, and they go, well, just lay hands on them and pray hallelujah in the name of Jesus, and you're going to be healed. And like addiction, and not to say that can't happen. It can. I'm not underestimating, because I've been there, done that. But when there's nothing wrong with people, of God being able to say, you need to send them to the right place and make sure that they have help so that they can do that. And I think Grace Baptist Church actually runs an AA or NA meeting actually out of their site. They did for years. And I think there's a couple of other churches that actually run recovery meetings, and that's a good thing, because people need to understand that our churches know that there's some wounds that need to be healed in our community, and that they will step out and not be afraid of people who are HIV positive, people who are addicted to heroin, people, and
Well, Jesus came for the sick, not for the.
That's exactly what it said. And so if you got a drug addict that walks into your church, everybody shouldn't get up out of their seat.
And see that, that has pushed me out of churches early on. Like, there was this guy, and he was drunk, and he came in and he sat down, and they sent him on his way. And I left that church, like, I was like, yo, what if that was the day that God was speaking to him and he was ready to give his life to God, and you just sent him back out to where his problems were, unprotected now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, so I have a problem with, you'll see what happens is we get saved, and then, we sanctified and all this other stuff. Now we have our nose, now we have our nose up in the air sometimes, looking at other people, forgetting that we were, you know what I'm saying? We were in that. What were you doing when God found you? Like, you know what I'm saying? If you think about, stuff like that. So I have problems with the judging of people, because that's the one place you should not get judged. Like, you should be able to go in without being judged. So I believe our churches need to be more involved. And sometimes, while I truly am a proponent and believer of the power of prayer, there are times when people need something in addition to prayer.
Well, if they're hungry, prayer is good, but they need a sandwich.
And it says, and Jesus says that too in one of his parables. If someone comes to your house naked and they need clothes, and you pray for them and send them on your way, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's somewhere in the Bible about that. So that does not, you did not help.
Did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? Right. That's what it asks.
So
when I was sick, did you visit me?
Prayer is always good, but there's sometimes, a lot of times, there's something in addition to prayer is needed, and sometimes we that falls by the wayside, I think.
Absolutely. So I'm glad. So that was just to say thank you, Bishop Edwards, for being present to pay attention.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Your point is well taken.
Yes. So Brenda Crump said there's nothing wrong with holding people accountable, especially elected officials, community leaders, clergy, etc. And then she put the little graphic, to whom much is given, much is required, Luke 12:48. And then she thanked me for taking her critique and editing suggestions. No, I appreciate it. That's why I give you props. I give props is where where they're due. You can't do this by yourself. You can't do any of this stuff by yourself. Like, Damon did a lot by himself when I was out of town. It was just, and I've done a lot on myself. And then it's the coming together that actually brandished this. And then the Cynthia being involved brought a whole nother level. Dr. Bob being involved this year brought a whole nother level. Those people, Rashad being involved brings another level. The financial expertise, educating our people on finances and all that kind of stuff.
That's good.
All of this stuff is what hopefully will help us take it to that next level and continue to be the voice for the voiceless and represent the people, and hopefully educate, uplift, and all that good stuff. So
and that's good stuff.
So, any last words? We coming to the close of the show. Any last words, Mrs. Moore?
Oh no! Again, like I said, thank you. I mean, this has been a very powerful and enlightening experience, and hearing what you all have to say, what you're doing, it's great. And I thank Brenda for recommending me again. She was really trying to get me to promote the Dancing in My Backyard, event, which again is on September 10th. And I think I got 2 tables. I think I might have a few more seats at my table that I have. But other than that, I mean, I can't believe, like I said, it's sold out. I'm not a dancer, so I'll go there and probably watch and pay attention. I do have a copy of it. Did she send it to you?
I see the digital. She posted the digital.
Okay, so she did post the digital.
Yeah.
Okay,
when I put something on Facebook, the whole link, you can watch this live on Facebook.
Okay.
And then as in the comments, all of this is in the comment section under the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good. So thank you. Thank you.
No doubt. And thank you again for what you do. Definitely.
Yes, definitely.
And your husband's involvement. Now, me and him don't always see eye to eye on the way we go about doing things, but I still have a lot of respect for what he does. And he does not always see eye to eye on the way I go about doing things, trust me. But we're able to have those conversations and keep it moving. And that's a classic example of that.
And that's right. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. I mean, he has his strong beliefs and opinions, and he one of the things I have to give him a lot of props for, and I think a lot of people don't know this about him. He's invested. We have 4 children. Our oldest daughter is an assistant principal at PS 41 in the Bronx. Like I said, our youngest daughter is at Howard. Our son is an actor. He just actually did some work with Denzel.
Okay.
He's just coming out of Martha's Vineyard doing a play up there, and our youngest son is in college. But we've raised like 4 or 5 other people's kids who really were struggling and didn't have places to go.
Right.
And without any hesitation, my husband will go in and invest his time with people without anybody ever knowing. And I don't know if those of you know Jimmy Jones, who used to be at the Boys and Girls Club in Mount Vernon many years ago. But Jimmy Jones became like a surrogate father to my husband. And
well, he talked about that at the the book signing. He talked about
his life, everything that he does to give back to other people. He really holds back to what Jimmy Jones did for him. He was a father figure, and so there are several people that see my husband as their father because of him investing in their lives. And the 2 of us have done that, and we do that purposefully because we want to make sure that our young people have opportunities, and our kids even say, "Mommy, do this for them."
Right. Well, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, as a public service announcement, I always consider myself a pretty street savvy dude because, I spent some time out there and,
He had another side before Dr. Bob.
I have a checkered past.
Yes.
Describe it. And although I've always considered myself still to have a strong connection to the streets, I have become aware of the limitations of my own knowledge, especially with respect to the use of pills. Pill popping is not something that's really not the drug of choice of my generation. Now, as I become a parent and an older relative to younger family members, I recognize that I don't even know the names of some of the more popular kind of pills that young people are taking, and that may indeed be a gateway drug to the use of heroin. And I wondered if you could just, as a public service announcement to some of our parents, tell us what are some of the more common kinds of prescription drugs, opioids.
And I'd like to add, if there are any online resources where, but only so much can be said in this show, that there may be things that they want to know where they can find the information, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, where can they learn and stuff?
Well, first of all, right now, one of the laws that are coming out is that now medical doctors are not allowed to prescribe the 30 days of pills anymore. But anytime you get a medication that actually is labeled a narcotic, right? Any narcotic, they used to do them, and when they used to write the prescriptions, they were in triplicate form. But now everything is electronic. So people used to prescription shop. They would take their prescription from one place to the next place and try to get as many medications as they could, or to go to different doctors or different pharmacies. Now there's a thing called iStop, which allows doctors to put the prescription in, and it goes directly to the pharmacy, so you don't carry.
That's what my dude. He calls it in, and I just go.
But that also doesn't allow you to go from here to there. So the OxyContins, anything that really has an opiate-based derivative.
How about what are Molly's? Is Molly's? I mean, I know it's a popular.
Yeah, there are certain things that they kind of like make up. Okay, so Molly's is those are things that are more hallucinogens. You know, they make you hallucinate. You can see that when people are taking them. There were some that were giving down in, I think, Brooklyn recently, and like the whole group of people, they had like a whole bunch of people that were taken to the hospital. They make you hallucinate, and they can actually cause you to have a mental breakdown. One of the big things right now is K2.
Yes,
K2
I was
is
getting ready
huge,
to ask
right?
you, like,
now K2 is synthetic. People call it marijuana, but it's not marijuana. It's just like a
Potpourri
whole bunch
or
of
something?
different.
Like-
It's a whole bunch of different chemicals that are brought together, and the reason you can't test for it with drug testing is because they change it. They change it all the time.
really?
Yeah, so you don't know what you have, and they were selling them in little stores because it wasn't illegal. So this has become a big thing. People are really they had the bath salts. And people were eating those, and they were causing them to eat.
They was eating bath salts?
Bath salts,
Yeah, a
and then
couple years
people
ago
were biting their faces off, eating their faces off.
Wait,
and they
wait,
were
who
doing all kinds
like who thinks of stuff like I would never.
I thought
think to
sniffing
walk
glue was
in my
crazy
house
back in the
and
days.
eat bath salt. Like who makes this stuff
Sometimes
up?
I wanted people to do this by accident, and then they say, "Oh, that looks like it might be good," and let's keep trying it, you know. But if you remember back in the day when Len Bias died, right? There was people were asking for Len Bias cocaine, right? Because they figured it was a higher way to get high. Then let's try that. The people always are living on the edge.
That's so crazy.
So you think about it, but again, pretty much when you think about the drugs that you're given for any type of pain, those are the reasons. Those are going to be the medications that you're really going to look for. So when you go to the dentist, when you have surgery, anything that you bring home that has in the prescription bottle, those are things that any one of those things you can't play around with. If your name is on it, you're the only one that should be taking it.
Right.
And you should be taking it for the amount of time that the doctor gives it for you. No more, no less. When you are no longer taking it, you need to get rid of that bottle. Do not leave the bottle in your cabinet. This is where the problem comes.
Well, I have a whole
leave
bunch of.
So go into your closet and take some things out of there because they're dangerous.
My foot's
And
swollen now.
I would. Well, I totally agree. I want to be sure to encourage people to dispose of it properly.
That's right, not down
Not
the toilet,
because
Not
there
go into
is a
the
lot
water.
of evidence that these drugs are contaminating our water supply and it's having adverse effects.
So what is disposed properly mean?
People been throwing it in the toilet, and now everybody getting high. Man, no wonder our kids crazy.
No wonder they said Mount Vernon got the best taste of water. Maybe that's what it is now.
But
Water never tastes so good.
But you know, like hydrocodone and stuff like that.
Yep.
You can't get in Mount Vernon. I'm just saying because I had a prescription, but you can't get it. A lot of the pharmacies in Mount Vernon don't sell it. They don't carry it.
Well, there have been people that have actually been robbing pharmacies.
Yeah, well, I believe it.
So
I know it
it's
had to be
been
something.
dangerous. They don't just stock it. It's not a stockable.
No,
thing.
You have to literally like wait like 2 weeks, like to get it, because when I broke my ankle, it was like you have to wait 2 weeks. I was like 2 weeks. I'm in pain like now.
But you could go to the hospital pharmacies. Usually have
Right.
The
Well, I
hospital
just went
pharmacy.
out of Mount Vernon itself, because I went to like every pharmacy when I broke my ankle, and it was like it's a waiting period.
When my mother had cancer, she was dying. She was in a tremendous amount of pain. They didn't have the medication that they prescribed for her, and they had morphine for her, and they couldn't get it.
Right.
And so that was really hard. And she was
like,
really
wow.
sick.
I was like, wow.
We have a request again from Brenda, and I will throw this to Bob, Dr. Bob.
What you want, Brenda?
Please don't close out without giving an update of the city council meeting or the Mount Vernon residents city charter meeting.
Right.
Okay. All right. You got to do it real brief. You got 2 minutes, Bob.
Well,
all right.
So we have 8, but go ahead.
Okay.
We presented the petition to the city council. Formally presented the petition to the city council this past Wednesday. Although we asked for a formal response, essentially the council's response was non-committal. Council President Griffith did say that the council is considering undertaking a number of actions to try to make sure that the mayor comes into compliance with the city charter with respect above all else to the residency requirement for the commissioners, but he refused to share exactly what he was going to be doing in order to bring that about. Therefore, the members of the coalition we had a follow-up meeting, key members on Saturday, and we made plans essentially to prepare an Article 78, which we're going to file both against the council and the mayor
and the controller too, right?
And the controller, all of the key offices in the city government to ensure that they all are using their full authority to enforce the charter. That's kind of where we stand now. We would like to encourage people, number one, to continue to sign the online petition. There are hard copies that are being circulated throughout the city of Mount Vernon. And our members of the coalition make those available. In addition, although this is largely going to be, self-directed effort, we are trying to raise some money in order to have legal counsel to review the Article 78 to ensure that it complies with all of the legal requirements. And so if people are interested in offering up some monetary support, please feel free to get in contact with us through the website, and we'd be glad to.
What is the website?
And the website is Mount Vernon Residents for the City Charter, and I think that's mvrfc.com. Did I get
you
that
actually
right?
might be right.
Yes, mvrfc.com, and they can sign a petition, and all the bullet points is actually on the website, and what the organization about and what we are.
Now let me ask you a question. So will there be updates? So people want to know what's going on, they can be updated, or
yes, yes. If they want to go to the website or the Facebook page.
Oh, there's a Facebook page.
Yeah, there's a Facebook page, Mount Vernon Residents for the City Charter on Facebook. You go to Facebook, and there's also Twitter. I'm not sure what the Twitter is, but there is a Twitter page. So we'll be tweeting out the meetings. If they go on the Facebook page, the videotape of the city council meeting is up on the Facebook page, and soon it will be posted on the website.
Okay, we have 4 minutes. Last words, Bob, Bill, and Damon.
Well, first, I was not here last Sunday, and that's because I was celebrating my son's graduation this past June.
And we give you a large shout out and applause. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to.
Here you go. I'm live. Here you go.
I wanted to give a shout out to my son. As I always tell him, he's far surpassed me when I was at his point in life. I was running the streets and stuff and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And
Rebel without a pause or a cause.
Yeah. And, and he's on his way to Rowan University, which is one of the New Jersey State University schools. And so this coming September. And so, partly, I guess, my mind is sort of pondering, the baby boy's fate. But, I wish him well. And I want to on air give a special thanks to his mom. Although her and I are not together, we've had a wonderful partnership over the years to try to ensure that he gets the best education possible, and she deserves a tremendous amount of credit for that. Although I'm sure she won't see any of this, but
DK Jones.
I think what do we got coming up?
So what you mean?
Oh, next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Oh man, next Sunday is a great Sunday. Everybody needs to tune in. We're gonna have Helena Edwards. She will be a guest on the show. Fire. She's gonna talk about a lot of issues in Mount Vernon. She has her own blog, Straight Talk MV. Straight Talk in Mount Vernon.
Just Google her name in Mount Vernon.
Samuel L. Rivers will be on the show. Is expected to be on the show. We're gonna have
firebrand.
We're gonna have a power representative from the Latino community, especially out there in Yonkers. Lorraine Lopez will be on the show, and what we're talking about and what we're moving forward, and what me and Lorraine is talking about is actually having a Black Latino political caucus here in Westchester, because a lot of our Democrats or Republicans or whatever political party, they have not been really addressing the issues of brown people, and I think we need to, like they have a Black, Latino, Asian caucus in the state, where they all get to shake hands and smile and talk about nothing. We need to literally have one in Westchester County where we can have an agenda for Black and brown people in Westchester County in politics, and be able to hold elected officials accountable that represent those districts that are high in Latino and Hispanic and Black neighborhoods. So this will be something ongoing, and it would be great to have her on the show. And so we can hear about what's going on in the Latino community,
Yeah, because we want to get more into that.
We know the issues that we face, they face it also. And a lot of times they don't have an outlet, to really talk about that either.
And and then
I'm excited for next week.
Right, and then 2 weeks on the 28th.
Yes.
Again, Black Westchester Magazine and People Before Politics are holding its first live Senate debate. All four candidates, I'm trying to reach the fifth one, but they will all be seated right there. We will be asking them questions. It will be broadcast live on Facebook Live and the regular ways of watching the show. We're not going to be taking calls that day because of the Facebook Live. You can just put your comments in. Well, we don't want 5 people calling up with the same question. You know what I'm saying? So, I can see the questions. I can ask them. I can address them to the candidates, and they can answer your particular question. It's the first thing like this that we've done. We've hosted a debate before. We've been involved in covering debates, but this is the first time, we're doing this interactive multimedia debate type deal. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully it'll be a springboard for many more to come. So that will be the 28th. 4 of the 5 candidates that right now have confirmed to be here. So, anything else coming up? Anybody? Anything else we have coming up? No, yes, no, yes, no.
No, I can think that's it. Unless Brenda has anything that she could post. Right. Yet.
And then we rescheduled. Dr. Bob will not be here next week, and our guest that was supposed to be here, Tamika Covingdale, she will not be here. They will be attending the wedding of Mike Holt, their friend Mike Holt, the fireman. So they will not be here for next week. And maybe I'll come to the reception afterwards. But
I'll save you a drink.
Yes, absolutely. So but we have rescheduled her. It will either be for September 4th or the 11th. The 11th being 2 days before the primary. So she will definitely come, and you will definitely get to meet her and have a conversation with, hear a conversation with us and the candidate for city court judge. So I think that's it right now. Again, it's our 90th show. We thank all of you for supporting us. You could be doing anything else right now, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. This has been Black Westchester Magazine presents People Before Politics Radio every Sunday, 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nub. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lights of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl.